I never thought I'd be standing in a courtroom, staring at my own parents as they sat in handcuffs. My mother's perfectly bleached face, the one she'd spent thousands maintaining, looked gaunt under the harsh fluorescent lights. My father wouldn't even look at me, but what hurt most was seeing my sister Maya in the witness gallery, her damaged skin barely concealed under layers of foundation, tears streaming down her face as she mouthed "I'm sorry" over and over again. Let me take you back to where it all began, to a house that looked perfect from the outside but held secrets that would eventually destroy our family. Growing up, I thought every household had a complexion chart on the refrigerator. Ours was right next to the grocery list, a gradient from dark brown to pale ivory that my mother had laminated and labeled with our names. Maya and I would be measured against it every Sunday after church. The lighter we were, the more praise we received. The darker, well, that meant another week of restrictions. "Arya, you've been playing outside again," my mother would say, holding my arm against the chart. "Look how dark you've gotten. No outdoor activities for 2 weeks." I was 8 years old the first time she made me wear long sleeves and pants in the middle of summer. The Texas heat was unbearable, but she insisted it would protect my complexion. Meanwhile, Maya, who was naturally a shade lighter than me, became obsessed with staying indoors, afraid of losing her position as the lighter daughter. My father wasn't much better. He'd come home from his job at the bank and immediately inspect us, checking behind our ears and the insides of our wrists, places he said showed our true color. He'd reward Maya with gifts when she maintained her pallor and punish me with what they called corrective measures. The first corrective measure came when I was 10. I'd spent an afternoon at my friend Keisha's pool party, something I'd hidden from my parents. When I came home with a tan, my mother grabbed my face so hard her nails left marks. "You did this on purpose," she hissed. "You want to embarrass this family." That night, she made me sit in a bathtub filled with lemon juice and baking soda for 2 hours. My skin burned and peeled for days afterward. When my teacher asked about the rash on my arms, my mother had coached me to say I had sensitive skin and had tried a new soap. By the time I turned 13, the rules had become suffocating. No sports that required outdoor practice. No walking to school. My mother drove us even though we lived 3 blocks away. Sunscreen wasn't for protection. It was applied in thick layers every 2 hours, even indoors, because my mother read somewhere that UV rays could penetrate windows. Maya had started developing her own obsessions. She'd stand in front of the mirror for hours, comparing her skin tone to magazine cutouts of white models she'd taped to her wall. She started skipping meals, convinced that certain foods made her darker. When she fainted during PE, my parents praised her dedication to self-improvement. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" my mother would ask me. "She understands what it takes to be beautiful." The truth was, I did want to be beautiful, but not their version of it. I loved how my skin looked when it caught the sunlight, the way it glowed golden brown. I loved my dark hair and the way it curled naturally, even though my mother insisted on chemical straightening treatments every 6 weeks. The treatments were another form of torture. The chemicals burned my scalp, leaving scabs that took weeks to heal. But my mother said straight hair was more refined and that my natural curls made me look wild. She'd make me sit perfectly still for hours while the relaxer ate away at my hair, tears streaming down my face from the pain. "Beauty requires sacrifice," she'd say, painting another layer of chemicals onto my hair. "One day you'll thank me." High school brought new horrors. My parents discovered skin lightening creams from overseas websites, products that weren't FDA approved and came with warning labels in languages they couldn't read. They started with the mild ones, creams that made my skin peel and flake like I had permanent sunburn. Maya embraced every treatment. She'd steal extra tubes and apply them multiple times a day, even though the instructions warned against overuse. Her skin started developing patches, some lighter, some darker, giving her a mottled appearance that she tried desperately to hide with makeup. "It's working," she'd insist, even as her skin grew thin and fragile, bruising at the slightest touch. "I'm getting lighter. Mom says I could pass for Mediterranean now." The weekend before my 16th birthday, my parents announced they'd found something special, a treatment from a woman who ran an underground beauty clinic in the back of a hair salon. They said it was my birthday gift, that they were investing in my future. The clinic was in a strip mall 40 minutes away, wedged between a check-cashing place and a store with bars on the windows. The woman who ran it, Mrs. Chen, spoke in hushed tones about her miracle formula that had helped dozens of women achieve their ideal complexion. "This is stronger than anything you can buy," she told my parents, pulling out a mason jar filled with a cream that had a chemical smell so strong it made my eyes water. "Apply twice daily, avoid sun completely for 2 weeks. You'll see dramatic results." My parents bought 6 jars for $3,000 cash. That night, they presented the jars to Maya and me like they were precious gems. My mother actually cried, saying this was their way of showing how much they loved us, how much they wanted us to succeed in life. "With lighter skin, doors will open for you," my father said. "Better jobs, better husbands, better lives. We're giving you a gift most parents can't afford." I tried to refuse. I told them I was happy with my skin, that I didn't want to use products that weren't even legal. That's when my father's face changed, that familiar darkness creeping into his eyes. "You're 16 years old," he said slowly. "You live under our roof, eat our food, benefit from our hard work. The least you can do is not embarrass us with your appearance. Maya had already started applying the cream before he finished talking. She slathered it on her face and arms, ignoring the immediate redness that appeared. Within minutes, she was scratching at her skin, saying it felt like fire ants were crawling on her. That means it's working, my mother said, though I caught a flicker of concern in her eyes. The first application is always the most intense. I locked myself in my room that night, shoving a chair under the doorknob. I could hear Maya crying in the bathroom, running cold water over her arms. By morning, she had blisters forming where she'd applied the cream. My parents said it was normal, that beauty required suffering. They started adding the cream to my food when I refused to use it. I'd find white residue in my morning orange juice, gritty paste mixed into my dinner. I stopped eating at home, surviving on vending machine food at school and water from the fountain. My grades started slipping. Teachers noticed I was falling asleep in class, that I'd lost weight. When the guidance counselor called me in, I wanted to tell her everything. But my parents had raised me well, trained me to protect family secrets above all else. Things escalated during Thanksgiving break of my junior year. Extended family was coming to visit, including my mother's sister who had married a white man and had beautiful, light-skinned children. My mother was determined that Maya and I would look our best, which in her mind meant our lightest. She'd ordered a new treatment from the Philippines, something injectable that was supposed to work from the inside out. When I saw the syringes, I tried to run, but my father blocked the door. "We've invested too much in you to let you throw it all away," he said. "Your cousins are successful because they look the part. You will too." I managed to lock myself in the bathroom, calling my boyfriend Marcus from my cell phone. He'd been begging me to tell someone about what was happening at home, but I'd always been too scared, too ashamed. That day, huddled on the bathroom floor while my parents pounded on the door, I finally broke down and told him everything. "I'm calling 911, he said immediately. "No," I whispered. "They'll kill me. Just, can you come get me, please?" But before Marcus could arrive, my parents managed to unscrew the doorknob. My father held me down while my mother approached with one of the syringes. Maya stood in the doorway, her face a mess of scabs and discolored patches, holding the jar of Mrs. Chen's cream. "Just let them do it," she said quietly. "It's easier if you don't fight." That's when something in me snapped. I bit my father's hand hard enough to draw blood and kicked the syringe out of my mother's grasp. In the chaos, the jar Maya was holding fell, shattering on the tile floor. The cream splashed everywhere. And the smell, God. The smell was like burning plastic mixed with bleach. My mother went crazy. She scooped up handfuls of the cream from the floor, dirt, and glass shards and all, and started smearing it on my face. My father held my arms while Maya grabbed my legs. I screamed as the cream hit my skin, an immediate burning sensation like nothing I'd ever felt before. "You're going to be beautiful," my mother kept saying, tears streaming down her face as she rubbed more cream into my skin. "You're going to thank us. You're going to be beautiful." The last thing I remember before passing out was the sound of sirens and Marcus's voice shouting my name from the front yard. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. The first thing I saw was my own reflection in the metal side rail of the bed, and I didn't recognize myself. My face was covered in bandages, but what I could see was red and raw, like someone had taken sandpaper to my skin. Marcus was asleep in the chair beside my bed, his hand wrapped around mine. When I squeezed it, he jolted awake, tears immediately filling his eyes. "Thank God," he whispered. "Aria," I thought. The doctor said. A nurse came in and explained that I'd suffered severe chemical burns on my face, neck, and arms. The cream my parents had used contained mercury levels that were 300 times the legal limit, along with hydroquinone concentrations that had literally burned through layers of my skin. "You're lucky your boyfriend called 911 when he did," she said. "Another few minutes of exposure and the damage could have been permanent. As it is, you're going to need several skin graft surgeries." The police came that afternoon. I told them everything: years of abuse, the illegal creams, the forced treatments, the final attack. They took photos of my injuries and said they'd be pressing charges against my parents for assault and child endangerment. "What about Maya?" I asked. "Is she okay?" The detective exchanged glances with his partner. "Your sister is refusing to cooperate. She says you did this to yourself, that you were trying to frame your parents." My heart shattered. Maya, my sister who'd suffered alongside me, was choosing them over the truth. My parents were arrested that evening. They posted bail within hours, and immediately started a campaign to discredit me. They told family members I was on drugs, that I deliberately hurt myself for attention, that Marcus had influenced me to rebel against my culture. The text started coming from unknown numbers. "You're destroying your family. How dare you air private business to outsiders? Your parents only wanted what was best for you." But the worst message came from Maya herself. "I'll never forgive you for this. They loved us, and you ruined everything." The next few months were hell. I moved in with Marcus's family while recovering from my first surgery. His parents, both nurses, were horrified when they learned the full extent of what I'd been through. They became my fiercest advocates, attending every legal meeting and medical appointment. The case against my parents was building, but the prosecutor warned me it would be difficult. Cases involving family abuse, especially when there are cultural elements involved, can be challenging to prosecute, she said. We need more evidence, more witnesses. That's when I remembered something. Maya and I weren't the only ones. My mother had a whole network of women she'd introduced to Mrs. Chen's clinic. I started reaching out to them through social media, and slowly, horrifyingly, the stories started pouring in. There was Aaliyah, whose mother had started treatments when she was 12 and now, at 25, had permanent scarring. There was Jennifer, who'd developed kidney problems from mercury poisoning. There was Precious, who'd lost patches of pigmentation that would never return. We formed a support group, meeting weekly at a community center. As our numbers grew, so did our strength. Several women agreed to testify about Mrs. Chen's clinic and the network of parents who forced these treatments on their children. But Maya still wouldn't budge. She'd moved back in with our parents, who were now portraying themselves as victims of a vindictive daughter. They did interviews with local bloggers who specialized in family values, claiming I was rejecting my heritage and had been brainwashed by Western beauty standards, the irony of which would have been laughable if it weren't so painful. Then, 6 months after the incident, Maya showed up at Marcus's house at 2 a.m. She was wearing a hoodie and sunglasses despite the darkness, and when she pulled them off, I gasped. Her face was destroyed, open sores, patches of dead skin, and a gray pallor that made her look like a corpse. I can't stop, she sobbed, collapsing into my arms. They make me use more and more. They say if I stop now, all the suffering will be for nothing. But Arya, I'm dying. I can feel it. My organs hurt. I can't eat. Please, I'm so sorry. Please help me. Maya's decision to come forward changed everything. She'd been documenting everything without our parents, knowing photos of her deteriorating skin, recordings of them forcing treatments on her, receipts for illegal products, even videos of them preparing the special mixtures they'd been giving us. I started collecting evidence after you left, she admitted. Part of me knew you were right, but I was so scared. They said if I sided with you, I'd be ugly forever, that no one would ever love me. The prosecutor was ecstatic. With Maya's evidence and testimony, the case against our parents became ironclad. But more importantly, it led to a larger investigation into the underground skin lightening network. Mrs. Chen's clinic was raided, and dozens of illegal products were seized. The trial date was set for spring. In the meantime, Maya moved in with Marcus's family too. We shared a room like when we were little, but everything was different now. She'd wake up screaming from nightmares, and I'd hold her while she sobbed about the things she'd done to her body, the years she'd wasted hating herself. We found a therapist who specialized in cultural identity and body dysmorphia. Dr. Williams, a black woman who'd grown up in a similar household, understood our pain in ways others couldn't. Your parents taught you that your natural selves were flaws to be fixed, she said during one session. Unlearning that, accepting that you are already enough, that's going to be the hardest battle you'll ever fight. She was right. Even after everything, I'd still catch myself avoiding the sun, still feel anxious when I noticed my skin darkening in the summer. Maya couldn't look in mirrors without crying, couldn't go outside without covering every inch of skin. But slowly, painfully, we started healing. Not just our skin though, the medical treatments were working, but our minds. We joined support groups for other children of colorist parents. We read books about internalized racism and the colonial roots of skin lightening. We learned that our parents were victims too, poisoned by generations of being told that darkness was inferior. Understanding didn't mean forgiving, though. As the trial approached, our parents tried everything to make us drop the charges. They sent relatives to plead their case. They offered money we knew they didn't have. They even staged a suicide attempt, though the hospital confirmed it was just manipulation. The trial began on a humid Monday in April. The courtroom was packed with reporters, community members, and other victims who'd come forward. Our parents sat with their lawyers, my mother wearing her best wig and my father in his one good suit, both trying to project an image of respectable parents wrongly accused. I testified first. For 3 hours, I detailed the years of abuse, the forced treatments, the physical and psychological torture. I showed the jury photos from my childhood, the progression from a happy brown-skinned girl to a hollow-eyed teenager afraid of her own reflection. When the defense attorney tried to argue it was cultural practice, I was ready. Culture doesn't justify child abuse, I said firmly. Tradition doesn't make poisoning your children acceptable. My parents chose to value an arbitrary beauty standard over their daughter's health and happiness. That's not culture, that's cruelty. Maya's testimony was even more powerful. She brought her collection of evidence, but more importantly, she told the truth about what the pursuit of lightness had cost her. She showed the jury her medical records, liver damage, kidney problems, hormonal imbalances that meant she might never have children. I wanted to be beautiful so badly that I let them destroy me, she said, looking directly at our parents. But I wasn't trying to be beautiful, I was trying to be white. And that's what you taught me, that my black skin was a curse to be cured. Our mother broke down crying, but even her tears felt performative. Our father maintained his stone face until Maya showed the video of him holding me down during the Thanksgiving attack. The jury's faces said everything. The prosecution brought in expert witnesses, dermatologists who explained the dangers of mercury and hydroquinone, psychologists who detailed the lasting trauma of colorism, sociologists who contextualized this abuse within larger systems of racism. Mrs. Chen was brought in shackles, having been arrested in the raid. She tried to claim she didn't know the products were dangerous, but the prosecution had emails where she explicitly told customers to lie to doctors about using her creams. On the final day, the prosecutor showed a photo of Maya and me from last Christmas, both of us still bearing scars, but smiling genuinely for the first time in years. These young women survived systematic abuse designed to erase their racial identity, she said. Their parents didn't just assault them physically, they tried to destroy their very sense of self. That's not parenting. That's not culture. That's abuse, plain and simple. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. When they filed back in, I held Maya's hand so tight I thought I might break it. Guilty on all counts: assault with a dangerous weapon, child endangerment, conspiracy to commit bodily harm. The judge sentenced our parents to 5 years in prison each, with mandatory counseling and a permanent restraining order. Our mother wailed, reaching for us as the bailiffs cuffed her. "I only wanted you to have better lives. Everything I did was from love." "No," I said, finding my voice one last time. "Love doesn't burn. Love doesn't poison. Love accepts, and you never accepted us." As they were led away, our father finally looked at me. For just a moment, I saw something like regret in his eyes. But it was too late for regrets. The aftermath was complicated. Our extended family was divided, some supported us, understanding the horror we'd endured. Others accused us of betraying our parents, of airing dirty laundry, of not understanding the sacrifices they'd made as immigrants trying to help their children succeed in a racist society. We lost some family, but we gained so much more. The trial had been covered nationally, and we received thousands of messages from people who'd experienced similar abuse. We started a foundation to help victims of colorism and to educate parents about the dangers of skin lightening. Maya threw herself into activism. She spoke at schools and community centers, showing her scars without shame, telling her story to prevent other children from suffering as we had. She was fierce and beautiful in her truth-telling, even as she still struggled with her own healing. I focused on my education, making up for lost time. I studied dermatology, wanting to help repair the damage that people like Mrs. Chen caused. But more than that, I wanted to redefine beauty for the next generation, to make sure no child grew up thinking their natural skin was a flaw to be fixed. Marcus stayed by my side through everything. He'd seen me at my worst, scarred, traumatized, sometimes irrationally angry at the world. But he loved me not despite my darkness, but because of everything it represented: strength, survival, authenticity. It's been 7 years now since that Thanksgiving when everything fell apart and, paradoxically, finally came together. I'm writing this from my office, where I work as a dermatologist specializing in treating damage from skin lightening products. The walls are covered with photos of my patients, beautiful in every shade, healing from traumas both physical and emotional. Maya is getting married next month to a wonderful man who fell in love with her activism before he ever saw her face. She still has bad days, still sometimes can't look in mirrors. But she's learned that beauty isn't about what you see, it's about what you project into the world. And she projects strength, resilience, and a fierce love for her community. Our parents were released after 3 years for good behavior. They sent letters, first angry, then pleading, finally something approaching apologetic. We haven't responded. Maybe someday we'll be ready for that conversation, but not yet. They're living with my aunt now, reportedly going to therapy, possibly beginning to understand the damage they caused. I hope they are. Not for us, but for them. The underground skin lightening network was mostly dismantled after the trial. Mrs. Chen served 18 months and was deported, but I know the problem hasn't gone away. It's too deeply rooted, too profitable, too tied to centuries of racial hierarchy. The work continues. Last week, a young girl came to my clinic with her mother. Chemical burns on her arms from bleaching cream. The mother cried, saying she just wanted her daughter to have opportunities, to not face the discrimination she had faced. I saw my own mother in her tears, the poisonous love that destroys while claiming to protect. But I also saw hope, because this mother brought her daughter to me to heal, not to lighten. Because she was willing to listen when I explained the damage. Because when her daughter said, "I like my brown skin," the mother hugged her and whispered, "You're right. It's beautiful." That's the cycle we're breaking. One family, one child, one conversation at a time. Maya and I speak at conferences now, telling our story to medical professionals, educators, parents. We show our scars not as victims but as survivors, as warnings, as proof that you can survive the worst betrayal and still choose love. My wedding is in 3 months. I'm wearing a dress that shows my arms, my back, all the places where the grafts left marks. My mother won't be there to fuss over my appearance, to inject poison while calling it care. Instead, I'll be surrounded by chosen family, by people who loved me when I was too damaged to love myself. Maya will be my maid of honor. We're both wearing our hair natural. The curls our mother tried to burn away have grown back stronger, defiant, beautiful. We're not wearing foundation to cover our scars. We're done hiding. Sometimes I dream about the daughters I might have someday. I dream of telling them they're beautiful exactly as they are, of teaching them that their skin, whatever shade it might be, is not a measure of their worth but a testament to their history. I dream of raising children who never know the weight of a complexion chart, who never learn to hate themselves for how the sun loves them. The sun. I spent so many years afraid of it, hiding from it, being punished for letting it touch me. Now I seek it out. I let it warm my face, darken my skin, remind me that I survived. That we survived. That despite everything they tried to take from us, we're still here brown, scarred, and absolutely beautiful. This is our story. It's not unique. Thousands of children suffer under colorism every day. But it's ours. And by telling it, we hope to spare others our pain. Beauty doesn't require sacrifice. Love doesn't demand you erase yourself. And family, real family, accepts you exactly as you are. Some nights, when the trauma feels heavy, Maya and I sit together and list what we've gained. Freedom, authenticity, real love, purpose, each other. The list is longer than what we lost. It always is, once you stop counting the things that were killing you as losses. We're not grateful for what happened to us, but we're grateful we survived it together, and that our survival might mean someone else's daughter won't have to.